So this month marks exactly 6 years from when I packed my entire life into 2 suitcases, said goodbye to my friends and family, and moved from my hometown, Sydney, Australia, to a totally foreign country I couldn't even speak the language of, Tokyo, Japan. And during this time abroad, I've learned so much about myself and how the world works. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 6 biggest life lessons I wish I knew before making this move. So with that being said, life lesson number 1 is that being in a relationship is the ultimate growth hack. So this one was really surprising to me because growing up, I always believed that being in a relationship in your 20s would slow you down and distract you from chasing your dreams. But after being in a serious relationship for over 4 years now, I've realized that I was so damn wrong. Because what I've noticed is that by being in a relationship, you are able to cut out all the bullshit that comes with being single, which then allows you to focus on the things that really matter. So for example, dating. Like I'm sure you know, it's so time consuming, it's so distracting, and it can be so expensive to date. So when you're in a relationship, all of that shit disappears, which then allows you to focus fully on building a life, not just for yourself, but as a team. On top of that, having someone in your corner that supports you and believes in you is priceless. And it's something I believe more 20-year-olds need. With all that being said though, there is one caveat to all of this. Because depending on who your partner is, this could either make you or break you. So for example, if you're trying to live a healthy lifestyle and your partner is the complete opposite, then it's probably going to end really badly. Because when you're in a relationship, a lot of your partner's traits will rub off on you. So if those traits are negative or toxic, this could be a recipe for disaster. So the key to all of this is to find the right partner that has similar wants and needs as you, and that is also in a similar stage of life to you. So for example, with my partner, she was in a similar situation where she had just moved from her hometown to Tokyo, which made it really easy for us to connect and navigate this new life abroad together. On top of that, she was into modeling and I was a photographer, so we had similar interests, which always helps too. And I know advice like just find the right partner is not very actionable and it's a lot easier said than done, but at the end of the day, I'm not Cupid, so you're probably going to need to go through some trials and errors to figure this out for yourself. But now moving on to lesson number 2, which is what's lame today usually becomes cool in the future. So this lesson has been a constant throughout my time abroad, and basically when we look at history, there are so many instances where something started off as lame, but then it became the norm. So for example, YouTube. When I was growing up, if you were a YouTuber, you were the lamest person in the world. I personally remember when I was back at school, there was a guy who used to create YouTube videos, and I can vividly remember everyone in my school thinking that guy was the biggest loser. But when I reflect back on that now, I'm actually impressed in how ahead of his time he was. Because a recent study that came out stated that one of the most desirable jobs for kids between the age of 10 to 17 is being a YouTuber. Another example is online dating, because what was once looked at weird has now become one of the go-to ways to date. And platforms like Tinder have hundreds of millions of users globally. And it doesn't stop there. Because even in my own personal life, when I first started content creation, I was more focused on being in front of the camera rather than behind it. And I remember copying so much shit from people because at the time what I was doing was seen as lame. But as soon as I started working with brands and getting featured in magazines, it quickly became cool. Same thing when I started creating educational videos online. I can personally remember people literally sending me screenshots of people laughing at my videos. But now these same people are asking me for advice on how to grow their businesses with educational content. So once you understand that things that start off as lame end up becoming cool later, you'll start to see opportunities to position yourself as a trailblazer, which in turn will allow you to reap the rewards of being a first mover. But now moving on to lesson number 3, and that is the grass is not greener on the other side. So this is a lesson I've had to learn the hard way so many damn times, because there have been so many occasions where I thought something would be amazing and then I'll go do it and it was nowhere close to it. And these days with social media and all the different options we have out there, it can seem like the grass is greener, but trust me, it ain't. So for example, I remember early on in my move abroad, I'd speak to friends back home and they used to be so amazed by the idea of living in a big metropolitan city like Tokyo. And look, I totally get it. It sounds and it's an amazing experience. But the reality is bills still have to get paid, bathrooms still have to get cleaned, and dealing with life's everyday problems occur just like they would in your hometown. And something I've come to understand is that the life you're living, the partner you're with, and the career you're working towards is perfect for you and your life right now. So never look at someone else's life and think, oh man, I wish I could have that. Because in reality, you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. And even though I'm all about being inspired by others and chasing big goals and growing in every aspect of your life, I'm also a big fan of enjoying the process and getting there. But now moving on to life lesson number 4, and that is, in life, you can have anything you want, but not everything you want. So this is actually a quote that I read early on in my move, and at the time I didn't fully understand it. But as time has gone on and the more things I've been able to achieve, it's a harsh reality that I've completely accepted. Because if you're like me and you're someone who is constantly wanting to get ahead in life and wanting to achieve more things, then you should know that you can literally do anything you put your mind to. But on the other side of that, you should also understand that great things take time and focus. So a harsh reality is that there are going to be things that you really want to do, but you just won't have the bandwidth to ever do them. And that's okay. Because these days, I personally spend majority of my time thinking about the things I should be focusing on before actually making a move. Because I personally understand how limited my time and focus is. Life lesson number 5, no one actually gives a fuck. So growing up, I always wanted to fit in and I had a deep desire to impress people. And I'm not really sure where this came from, but maybe I was just insecure and needed to get outside validation from people. Because when I reflect back, I can remember so many instances where I did something just because I thought it would impress people. And to be totally transparent, there was definitely a part of me that thought, how cool will everyone think I'll be if I move abroad, when thinking about my move to Tokyo. But as time has gone on and as I've started to achieve some cool things in both my career and my personal life, I've started to realize that no one actually cares. And even though that may sound harsh, it's actually quite enlightening when you realize it. Because look, people are just too focused on their own lives, and it's not a bad thing. It's just how we are as people. So when you realize that there's no spotlight on you and that no one is watching every move you make, it should hopefully free you from not doing certain things because you're afraid of being judged. Honestly, there are so many people that I've met during my time abroad that had so much damn potential, but they pissed it away because they were too afraid to look stupid for a year while they figured things out. They were literally so worried what other people thought of them that it stopped them from living a life that they'd love and that they'd have total control of. And I know this is a lot easier said than done, but if you can get to a point in your life where you truly understand that no one cares what you do, that's when you'll become unstoppable. And this brings me to life lesson number 6, which is probably the most valuable lesson I've learned on this list. And that is, don't underestimate yourself, because you're a bad motherfucker. So growing up, I always put people on a pedestal. I used to think certain people had this special thing that made them better than me, or that allowed them to achieve certain things that I just couldn't. But as I started learning more about myself and ticking off goals and achievements that I set out for myself, I began realizing that I can literally do anything I put my mind to. And it's not just me, because I can confidently tell you, when your back is up against the wall and when everything is going against you, if you want it bad enough, you will be forced to push forward. And this is where the real growth happens. And by living in a foreign country alone, it'll force you to grow up fast, and there will be times of intense struggle. But the more you get through those tough times, the more you're gonna realize that you are one bad motherfucker, and that you have all the tools needed to achieve anything you want. And that's it. Those are some of the key lessons I've learned from living in a foreign country for over 6 years. And honestly, I believe living abroad in your 20s is one of the most underrated self-improvement hacks that anyone can experience. And when I was in my late teens, I used to ask every person that was above the age of 30 this one question: what's one thing you wish you did in your 20s? And the reason I asked this was because I always wanted to get ahead in life, and I'd read countless books that said how you spend your 20s will play a major role into how your future will turn out. So after reading a bunch of books, I was determined to learn from others' mistakes so that I could make the most out of my 20s. And after asking over 1,000 people this question, the most common answer I received: I wish I lived abroad when I was younger.